Hey everyone, welcome to the Morning Grind podcast. I'm your host, Stevietpfl. It's Thursday, it's September 11th, it is 2025. We have a 12-game NFL Week 2 slate to talk about here on today's podcast. Yes, Thursday is NFL Day. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Wednesday night over there in chat. If you haven't already, make sure you head on over to the Morning Grind YouTube page. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications. Still grinding out some MLB podcasts, trying to be more consistent with them. I feel like this time of the year with my schedule, it's crazy, but I really like talking baseball. So always love talking football as well. It's that time of the year when football is king. We have a lot to talk about. Overreaction week 2 is one of my favorite weeks of the NFL season. I think it was my biggest week last year. I don't remember. I think it was week 2 or week 3. I can't remember, but excited to kind of jump in and talk about the slates and this week. And I feel like I'm about 75% done with my early week research. Still like getting into the groove of like working on NFL stuff while working on coaching and stuff. So yeah, we get started with Jacksonville and Cincinnati. 48.5 total in this game. The Bengals a 3.5 point favorite. We'll start here with the Jags. Trevor Lawrence. One of the biggest letdowns last week, I feel like for me, was Brian Thomas. I feel like he was one of my highest owned wide receivers, and he was a letdown in the aspect of like fantasy production. He had 7 targets. He had 38% of the air yards. And Travis Etienne just had a really good game on the ground. So this might be one of those spots where we see a little bit of overreacting. Cincinnati, definitely a team that can get beat in the air. They're a team you can get after the quarterback. They did a really good job stopping the run last week. It's 1 week. I'm not going to put too much stock into 1 week. That's why I said it's overreaction week 2. But I think for this game, on the Jags side of things, I want to get some exposure to Thomas. I think that he let so many people down last week that he might just kind of go a little lower owned than he probably should. So he's one of the stands I want to take. Obviously, looking at this matchup for Travis Etienne, and he averaged 8.94 yards per carry. He had a really, really good game. When we start digging into the stuff a little bit more with Travis Etienne, it was like, man, his snap percentage was really good. But it wasn't like incredible. It was 66.7%. Um, but he had a couple really big plays, and I'm always a little concerned about that kind of stuff. I don't know. I feel like this is one of those spots where I'm going to be overweight on Thomas and underweight on Travis Etienne. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and like I don't mind taking some shots on Trevor Lawrence, I think as well. I think Trevor Lawrence is someone you could, I think this game has the potential to have like it has shootout potential. So, I mean, I'm going to play a little bit of I'm going to play a little bit of like Jamar Chase, and I'll probably play a little bit of Higgins, and I'll probably end up playing a little bit of trying to think. Like I'll probably end up playing a little bit of Brown. So yeah, I think that's kind of it from the Jags. I don't think I want to play Strange. I guess like we could talk a little bit about Travis Hunter. He had 8 targets, he had 6 catches. His ADOT was pretty low. I don't think he's going to be somebody that's they're going to throw the ball down the field to. I think a lot of his work is going to be kind of like short run, like slot stuff. But I mean, obviously that's fine too. There's plenty of upside in that and getting catches, especially on DraftKings. So I could see taking some shots on him. He's still 5,200. There's plenty of upside on DK. We're full point PPR. So trying to think. It's probably kind of it for me. I know I kind of backtracked a little bit there, but I wanted to at least bring up Thomas. His his first read percentage, which if you ever listen to the podcast before, it's a stat that I absolutely love for NFL receivers. Travis and Hunter, or Thomas, Hunter and Thomas, were both 28% first read. So very, very touchdown dependent, I feel like, for both of them, but they're both going to be heavily involved in the game plan week in and week out for the Jags. So I think that's it. I don't really have anything else to add. I know I like this game. I know I'm like getting all over the place a little bit. I like this game. I think this game has a lot of potential. So all right. Other side, Cincinnati side. I mean, I don't feel like the Jags defense really got tested last week against Carolina. So it's really hard for me to like trust any kind of stat that I mean, I watched a lot of that game, and Bryce Young was running for his life a lot, but I don't know if that's just Carolina or if that is how good the Jags defense is. So I feel like I want to test them here. Again, I don't tend to overreact to week one. I try to not overreact to week one more than others. I want to play studs. I want to play guys that are going to get looks and targets. So when I'm looking at this matchup and I'm looking at the Bengals from last week's like game, we saw terrible game from T. Higgins, terrible game from Jamar Chase, as far as like just overall production. But again, like Chase had 48% air yards. The Bengals offensive line were on roller skates in that game against Cleveland, which is a little concerning. But I mean, it was a really ugly win for this team. Chase is the first read, 33%. Higgins was about 27%. Target rate was very similar. We saw Noah Fant get involved a little bit, but like Jamar Chase is the guy that I think you want to play. I think Higgins is the guy you want to play. And I don't think we can overlook Chase Brown here. 73% of the snap count. He had 91% of the rushing attempts. It was the highest of any running back in week one. So he just has such a high volume. He's still pretty cheap at 6,800. He's like, I have like a love-hate relationship with this spot for him. So again, I think this game overall is very stackable. I think this is a game that you could take shots on so many different ways. You could take shots on in this game. So I'll be playing stacks of this game, hoping for a shootout, because I really do think like we have a ton of potential for a shootout here. Noah Fant's really cheap, but I don't think I end up getting there. All right, we got New England and Miami facing off against each other. This game has a 43.5 total. The Dolphins, a 1.5 point favorite. I don't know how. I'm a Dolphins fan, and I watched week 1, and I don't know how they're favorites in this game. But we'll start here with the New England side. And I mean, instantly they said we have to come out and run the ball better. Duh. I mean, it was atrocious. I mean, Stevenson is not good, and you're giving him. I feel like they gave him way too much work in week 1 and not let my boy Henderson do his thing. I think Henderson has the most upside of the running backs here. If you want to take some shots, I definitely wouldn't talk you off of playing some Henderson. This is a team that is very beatable defensively. Personally, I'm going to likely go down the road of the passing game here. Boudier, 23% of first looks. Diggs still out there getting plenty of targets. And then Hunter Henry just continuously doing his thing. I think Drake May is someone that is cheap enough. We could take some shots on at 5,200 after watching how bad Miami looked last week. So I like Henry. And I like this spot for Boudier. Like I said, Boudier, he had 38% of the air yard share. Really involved and looked clearly like the number 1 wide receiver. So, I mean, just kind of looking at routes and snap count and all that stuff, first read, it looks like Boudier is definitely going to benefit from Diggs. I will say Boudier, there was a report that came out. He was dealing with a little bit of a shoulder injury after taking a hit. But he played, and I'm pretty sure that we'll see him play again. So I think Boudier at 4,500 is one of the better values that we have on the entire slate. I don't trust the running back situation. If I was going to play one of them, I would play Henderson. I think Henderson has the most upside in the passing game and the running game. So if I was going to play anybody in the backfield for New England, it would be him. As far as Miami, I mean, Tua looked awful in the game against the Colts. They took his first read away so many times, and he just couldn't do anything after that. Tyreek's at a price where I feel like we could take some shots on him. His air yards was still 39%. He still got targeted 6 times. So I think we take a shot on Tyreek in large field tournaments. I don't mind the Tyreek Boudier run back. I think that is interesting. Waddle, it'd be interesting. I mean, I assume Waddle's going to play. I mean, it was a shoulder. He did play. I think it was like 66% of the snaps. Malik Washington was way more involved than I thought he was going to be. He's 3,300, but I feel like he has to prove it, or Waddle has to be out for me to get to Malik Washington. And then the tight end, Connor. You're going to have better tight end plays on this slate, like him and Hill, just not worth playing. So I think Tyreek would be my main target here. HM was on the field a lot. He's 6,900. I mean, I guess he's playable in the aspect of like he played 70% of the snaps. He rushed the ball 58% of the time of their rushing attempts. He was on the field a lot for targets. So HN, I think, at running back in large field tournaments is okay. Moving on. We got Cleveland at Baltimore, 45.5 total in this game. The Ravens, a 11.5 point favorite. Baltimore coming off of a crazy loss on on Sunday night against the Bills, 41-40 game. Derrick Henry looked unstoppable in that game. He should, I mean, realistically, they should run the ball a lot here. Home favorites. They should get Derrick Henry very involved in this game. I will say some of the underlining numbers are a little concerning. He only played 56% of the snaps. He ran the ball 62% of the time on the rushing. He doesn't get involved in the passing game. And I mean, his expected fantasy points were a lot lower than his actual production. He's Derrick Henry. He's healthy right now. I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead. I always talk about the visiting team first. I'm going to backwards this game. I'm going to go Baltimore first. So, Derrick Henry, I don't mind Lamar Jackson. He just has such a high floor that you could always play him. I prefer just going to like a Flowers instead, and getting my exposure through Flowers and Henry would be my favorite way to attack this Ravens offense. Both of these guys have a lot of upside. Zay Flowers, 54% of the air yard share, 53% first read rate. Like 53% on how many routes he ran is just an incredibly high number. JSN was the only person that was higher than him in week 1. So it was like JSN, Flowers, Neighbors, London, CD, Nakua, Hollywood Brown, and Cortland Sutton were the top 8. So I like Flowers. I mean, I don't think you could play really anybody else. I think if you're playing Baltimore, it is Flowers, Henry, Lamar, and you feel pretty good about it. All right, let's backtrack now to the Cleveland side of this game. I said it last week, going into the week, that Jerry Jeudy was one of my favorite plays, and I was so sad when Tillman caught the touchdown instead of Jeudy. I'll go back to the well here on Jeudy. I think they're going to be trailing a lot in this game and playing from behind, which also makes me really like Sampson at 5,200 on DK. They're going to be trailing. He's going to get some work in the passing game. He's going to be on the field, I feel like, a little bit more in this one after a good week 1. So I like him. You are a little, I mean, the snap share in Cleveland, very concerning. Like Ford was like 52% and Sampson was like 45%. But I feel like Sampson fits this game more than Ford. So we all kind of played Njoku, and he had 6 targets. He had a good game, but the rookie, man, Harold Fannin, like, he had 9 targets. He had 7 catches. They used him so much in different routes and like packages. Really liked his first read route. So if you think that they're going to be trailing in this game at this price point, I think you're taking shots. And I will say I wouldn't sleep on Cedric Tillman. He did have 31% of the air yards. He had five catches on 8 targets. He was the first read 24% of the time. Njoku had 5 targets, and they were definitely plays drawn up for him because he only had the first read rate like 8% of the time. I don't think this is the spot I want to play Flacco. But after watching what like Flacco and Josh Allen just aren't on the same level. So I don't think I get the Flacco. I do like this like potential Cleveland run back with Baltimore, hoping that you get like a shootout game. The Baltimore defense, we picked on them a lot last year, and they just allowed like 394 yards in the first game and only had 1 sack against Josh Allen. So I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into playing a little bit of Flacco, but I doubt it. Thanks as always. Do you have an NFL fantasy team? I don't do a lot of season long. I do a lot of best balls, and I usually do the Scott Fish Bowl. That's like my main season long. But I had to miss the Scott Fish Bowl for a volleyball thing this year. So I'm actually not in the Scott Fish Bowl this year for the first time since like Scott Fish Bowl like 3 or 4 or something like that. So all right, moving on. We got the Giants and the Cowboys. 44.5 total. Cowboys a 5.5 point favorite. Trying to figure out what I like on the Giants. I don't love Russell Wilson. Tracy was on the field a ton, right? He played 72% of the snaps. He only had 10 rushing attempts and 3 targets. I expect them to try to get him more involved this week, but I don't know if I trust it at all. I will say, like, I did talk about Robinson last week, and he had a really solid game, 6 for 55 at a really cheap price tag. Neighbors and Robinson are both banged up. Neighbors his first read rate was incredibly high. You know exactly what you're getting with him each and every game right now. They're going to be playing catch up in this game, so I don't mind taking some shots on Neighbors ever. I like Robinson a little bit for tournaments, not touching the tight end situation. The only other player that I think you could potentially play here is Tracy, just because he's playing so many snaps. Oh, the Cowboys. What to do with Dallas? I mean, CeeDee Lamb was back to his old ways, 13 targets, 53% of the air yards, 45% first read rate. That's just elite type numbers. So obviously, like, CeeDee Lamb is up towards the top of the list as far as like high-end wide receivers for me. Pickens, like, his first read rate was low. His target rate was pretty low. Ferguson was right kind of where he was at last year. So I think there's better tight end plays on this slate. I really think it's CD. But I really like Javonte Williams. I guess I kind of buried the lead a little bit more but I like Williams a lot. He played 80% of the snaps. He rushed the ball on 68% of the rushing attempts. He had 3 targets out of the backfield. He had a really, really strong game against a tough Philadelphia defense. Gets a much better matchup here. Price-wise, I think Williams is just one of the better price players on the entire slate. So I really like the spot for Javonte Williams. So he's going to be a main target for me overall on the slate. So just trying to pull up a couple sites and see what his projected ownership was really quick. Is he going to be popular? Yeah, I mean, he's not a high-end projected ownership guy, but he's definitely like 7th or 8th. So I like him a lot more than what he's projected for ownership-wise right now. I think that I definitely will be double the field on his current projected ownership. Quick game. I mean, I don't know what else you'd really say. I think you could potentially take some shots on the Dallas defense. You could play Dallas defense with Williams together. I don't hate that idea. We got the Rams heading to Tennessee, take on the Titans. 41.5 total in this game. The Rams, a 5.5-point favorites. I mean, Matthew Stafford basically told us last year what he's going to do. He is going to pepper Puka Nacua with targets. I will say that I wasn't expecting Adams to get targeted as much as he did in that game. So, I mean, I definitely like Adams' price, but Nacua, 39% of the air yards, 41% first read rate, just 38% target rate. Like it's elite numbers. So the pace of this game concerns me a little bit. Williams really struggled to get going. He averaged under 4 yards per carry and only had 2 targets. He did. He was on the field a lot though. Like he's just not. I mean, he's an 80% plus snap share guy, so he doesn't come off the field. So like, just pure workhorse type of workload. So I mean, you can always take shots on him. Tennessee struggled against the run last year. I don't want to play Stafford. I don't want to play the tight end situation. If anything, I will play some Puka. I'll play some Adams, and I'll play some Williams for the Rams. I also don't hate the idea of taking some shots on the Rams defense in this game. Other side here, the Titans side of this game. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say Cam Ward looked good. I mean, he was playing a really tough defense. He really struggled to get going. I don't know. After watching the game last week, it's like I really don't want to play anything from Tennessee. One of the reasons I do have some interest in the Rams defense. But all right, let's dig into this spot a little bit and see who we want to play. Calvin Ridley ran a lot of routes. Io Manor he was the first look a lot. It's 7 targets. He was the first read 27% of the time there. Maybe the underlining numbers, if you think that Tennessee's going to be trailing in this game, Io Manor sounds cooler. He's really, really cheap. And if you think they're going to be trailing, I think Calvin Ridley's probably the safer option, but we all kind of expected Tyler Lockett to be one of the main targets here. He had 1 target. I don't know. The more I look at this, they used Lockett out of the slot last week 96% of the time. Ridley and Io Manor were the 2 main outside guys. I think you could, in large field tournaments, if you're looking for just a punt play, take some shots. I mean, high first read rate, good target rate, really cheap, and they should trail in this game at home. All right, we got Bills, Jets, 46.5 total in this game. Bills, a 6.5-point favorites. Josh Allen just continues to be Josh Allen, and he just does his thing. I mean, just incredible. We just watched Aaron Rodgers throw 4 touchdowns against the Jets last week. So obviously now we're getting the Bills here. So they were trailing, so they were throwing a bunch in that game. Obviously, I have interest in Josh Allen every time he takes the field because he just has a high floor, high ceiling. against anybody. But now we're getting all of his wide receivers are cheap. All of them. He really looked at Coleman a lot last week. He had 11 targets. Palmer had 9 targets. Shakir had 8 targets. He didn't use the tight ends as much. So again, looking at like where they use them. So they ran Shakir out of the slot a lot. They ran Kincaid out of the slot too. But the two main outside guys were Coleman and Palmer. Being a main wide receiver in this offense is great. I don't want to overreact, but I mean, Coleman's numbers, the underlining numbers for Coleman look really good. Palmer's numbers look good. The Jets, again, like their defense just got pounded by Aaron Rodgers. I will say, like, Calvin Austin had a lot of success out of the slot against them, so maybe you take shots on Shakir too. So James Cook, not to like go overlook James Cook here. I like James Cook's upside. He game script proof. Trailing, they'll use him in the passing game. Ahead, they'll run him. So I like Buffalo. Allen, Coleman, Palmer, Shakir, all in play here. Prices are really good on them. If you're not playing Josh Allen, I think you could take some shots on Justin Fields. He ran the ball 12 times. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 48 rushing yards, threw the ball 22 times. The best thing about Justin Fields is like you don't have to pair him with anybody. If you do want to pair him, I think Wilson's the only person that I would remotely even look at. It was very after him. It was very spread out. So air yard share for Wilson, 51%. Target rate, 36.5%. So I think Wilson is the guy you're looking if you're going to pair him. But I think Fields is a phenomenal option here. 5,700 for a guy that he's going to run. They're going to trail in this game. I think this is a spot Justin Fields could be a huge difference maker. And the best thing about it is you don't have to pair him with anybody. Breece Hall looked really good. I always worry about Allen getting the goal line work. So Breece Hall is going to have to do it before you get down to the goal line. I would still play Breece Hall over Allen if I was going to play a running back in this situation. He can catch the ball in the backfield. But I it's really hard not to like Fields for me. Fields is like my main play here from the Jets. Like I said, I don't mind taking Wilson with him. He was clearly the guy, and he's going to be the guy. So Fields, Wilson, Fields by himself. Price on Fields seems really great for his upside here. Bears, Lions, 46.5 total in this game. Lions a 6-point favorites. Man, the Bears kind of, I don't want to necessarily say they choked that game away, but man, Caleb Williams' second half was awful. His main 2 targets, Odunze. I want to say DJ Moore was okay, but Odunze just seems to be like the guy. They also used Zacchaeus. I always say this guy's name wrong, but they used him out of the slot a bunch in week 1 against Minnesota, and he didn't necessarily have a bad game. I typically lean to Odunze. I think that he just has the most upside out of all of the backs here, typically. I do like DeAndre Swift. He played almost 80% of the snaps. He was the main guy. He got 5 targets out of the backfield. So in a game they probably going to be trailing, I think Swift is someone that could get some easy catches out of the backfield. I don't hate Caleb Williams. I like the price tag. He really did not have that good of a fantasy day, even though his fantasy output was fine at 24% or 24 fantasy points, not 24%. They're going to be trailing in this game, I would assume. So I don't mind getting exposure to Detroit or getting exposure to Chicago, assuming that they're going to be trailing. Detroit, kind of a letdown week 1. Green Bay's defense might actually be really good. So this is one of those spots I don't want to necessarily overreact to because I do think like their defense has a lot of upside. I think the biggest thing for me was Jameson Williams. His first read rate was like under 10%. I know he had 5 targets, which was the same as St. Brown. But they didn't like try to take any deep shots with him, which is concerning because I mean that's where his upside is. I want to go back to this offense with St. Brown. I think you could play Laporta as a expensive tight end. I mean, I do like some cheaper tight ends a little bit more than him. But I'm going back to Williams. I think this guy just signed an extension. I feel like there's a lot of upside potentially with him. And I think if they are looking at the same stats that we're looking at, they're like, man, we got to get this guy going. So I think Williams, I think they're going to take some shots down the field with Williams this week. The running back situation was kind of exactly what we expected. Jamar Gibbs, 10 targets, 10 catches out of the backfield, heavily involved when they were behind. He's going to be the workhorse. I think it's going to be like a 65-35% split this season. So it'd be Gibbs. I have more interest in the passing game, though. I'll probably have Gibbs in my player pool. I like playing him. Oh, Seattle at Pittsburgh. 40.5 total in this game. Pittsburgh, a 3-point favorites. Oh, well, okay. We'll start with Seattle. I will say that we just watched Fields have a really solid game against this defense, but very different quarterbacks with Sam Darnold. The one thing that I really liked about the Seahawks in week 1 is JSN he was the guy. 13 targets, first read on 66.7, 56.5% target rate. Like, that is the volume that I will play you against anybody. I was a little concerned about like what Cooper Kupp would look like, but it was JSN and it was really nobody else. Charbonnet got the touchdown over Walker, which was very tilting because I did have some Walker, but he looked terrible out of the backfield. He really couldn't get anything going. Neither running back could really get anything going. Pittsburgh is beatable by the run. Personally, I'm going to go JSN. Probably it for me. And then on the Steelers side, Aaron Rodgers, man, just does it, right? He just keeps doing it. I love the idea of DK Metcalf going back to Seattle here. I mean, maybe I'm just a sucker, but I love that he's going back to Seattle. Austin definitely had a really solid game. But Jonnu Smith is someone I want to mention here because Jonnu Smith was a first read 20%. And his air yards were interesting. They're like negative, but they they did some wide receiver screens with him. He had some really easy catches. So that, I mean, that's a good thing to kind of see. I think DK Metcalf is the upside play here. I think Austin is someone you could potentially take some tournament shots on, but I feel like that might be a little overreacting. Kenneth Gainwell was on the field more than Warren in week 1. The running back situation is something I probably end up staying away from. I like the idea of Warren getting a few targets, but if he didn't score that touchdown, he would have had a terrible game. Obviously, that's anytime, right? But I think it's DK Metcalf. JSN DK Metcalf stack would be kind of how I'd be approaching this. This game has a low total. I don't expect it to be a high-scoring game. I think both these defenses are in play overall. 49ers, Saints, 40.5 total in this game. The 49ers, a 3-point favorite. Report came out today that Purdy is not expected to play, which means we are getting 4K Mac Jones. Christian McCaffrey back to his Christian McCaffrey type workload. Ran the ball 22 times, had 9 catches on 10 targets out of the backfield. Kittle on the IR, he's hurt, and it sounds like Jennings is banged up with his shoulder, and they said that like he might not get there to play. So just CMC is going to have a very heavy workload in this game, and that's the kind of stuff that we look for anytime. Ricky Pearsall, he's 5,300. He's going to have a ton of targets out of the backfield here. 7 targets week 1. Jennings had 5. Kittle had 4. Jake Tongs, the tight end, would be my next option in this offense. But again, like if he didn't score a touchdown, and like tight ends definitely need those touchdowns to kind of hit their upside. The Saints side, Alvin Kamara had 11 rushing attempts, 2 catches, was on the field a ton, just didn't get any work. We saw Olave, and of anybody, the tight end, Juwan Johnson had a really good game. He had 12 targets. This offense is going to be atrocious all season. I think you could play any of the 3, Olave, Shaheed, or Johnson. I need Alvin Kamara to kind of beat me. I think both these teams try to slow this game down. I don't think there's a ton of upside in this game overall. That's it. I don't really have anything else to add there. We got Carolina at Arizona. Going to the 4 o'clock games now. Only 3 4 o'clock games this week. But I mean, the Eagles Chiefs game should be fun to watch in that 4 o'clock window. We got a 43.5 total. I don't know if I said that already, but Arizona, a 6.5 point favorite. We'll start with Carolina. I don't know. I watched a lot of this game. I mean, I had so much exposure to the Jags in week 1, and pretty much sums up how my week 1 went. McMillan had 40% of the air yard share. He was the first read 27% of the time. He had 8 targets. I don't think we get too discouraged by his lackluster performance. He's still 5,400. There's a lot of good wide receiver plays this week. So I definitely could see finding other plays. I will have him in my player pool. Hubbard, still kind of a 65% guy. He got enough work where, I mean, he definitely had a touchdown, but outside of the touchdown, he still had like a really solid outing. Like, obviously you want touchdowns, but he's another guy that I don't mind maybe potentially having in my player pool. Leggett is so cheap, and he did have 7 targets. He'd be a large field tournament play, but you don't feel remotely good about it. Arizona, I mean, it's Trey McBride, it's Marvin Harrison. It was really good to see them get Marvin Harrison going early this year. He had almost 50% of the air yards for this offense. He's still really cheap. Always good when you get a guy like Harrison in the end zone early. McBride, if you're paying up for tight end, always one of the safer floor upside type tight ends. I mean, I keep playing James Conner. Carolina was awful against the run last season. We just watched Travis Etienne absolutely shred this. I haven't looked yet. I'm going to look right now. This might be my morning grind, one of my morning grind bets. I haven't bet anything yet this week, but I'm going to look right now. Let's see what is the player prop for James Conner rushing yards. It is, we're taking over. That's going to be one of my morning grind bets. I'm just doing it now live. James Conner over 63.5 rushing yards. I want in on that. I love this spot for him. I don't mind Kyler Murray. I just think there's better quarterback plays overall on this slate. I think you can get his production through Harrison, Wilson, McBride, Connor. Those are the guys that I would target here in this game. Up next, got Denver at Indianapolis taking on Colts. This game has a 42.5 total. Colts a 1.5 point favorite. Bo Nix, Cortland Sutton. I mean, that combo looks very enticing. They did a really good job against Miami on taking away the first look. I really like Sutton with Nix at quarterback. So this game's indoors, always good. I'm going to talk about the Pittman side on the other side of this game. I like Pittman. But I like Sutton. As far as the running back situation for this team, Dobbins played 52% of the snaps. Harvey played 31% of the snaps. I think right now it's Dobbins until we see otherwise. I think long-term, RJ Harvey probably has a higher ceiling. I mean, he had 6 carries for like 70 yards. So maybe he earned a few more carries this week. But I think until we see him get like consistent carries and kind of pass the snap share through Dobbins, we're going to be playing Dobbins if we're playing any running back here. I don't think I want to play Bo Nix today. I think Bo Nix this week. I think there's better options, but I do like Sutton. Other side of this game, Tyler Warren, one of my favorite tight end plays this week. This is a tough matchup. Broncos defense is really, really strong. But Tyler Warren, 30% first read rate, 31% targets, 25% air share as a tight end. Love that. I think Warren and Pittman are both playable. They're both cheap enough. You just hate the matchup against Denver. Denver seems like they're going to have a really strong defense, but they're both like Pittman is still so cheap coming off of a 8 target, 6 catch, 80-yard game that I think you could take tournament shots on either one of these guys. All right, let's talk about the game of the week. Philadelphia at Kansas City. This game has a 46.5 total. The Eagles, a 1.5-point favorite. This game is enticing because it definitely has a ton of shootout potential. Outside of that, I don't know. AJ Brown had one target week 1. So I feel like they want to try to get him going after a really tough matchup week 1. They really look to Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith. I like the idea of, again, overreaction week 2, playing AJ Brown, hoping they get him going here. Devontae Smith is still cheap enough. Goddard got banged up. It was a knee, and it's a knee sprain. So I don't know if I want to touch the tight end situation if Goddard doesn't play. I like AJ Brown. Saquon, always a top tier running back against anybody because of his volume. And I mean, obviously, Jalen Hurts under 7K on DraftKings. This is the type of game where you see Jalen Hurts gets two rushing touchdowns. So I like Jalen Hurts. Other side, Hollywood Brown came up big for Kansas City when Worthy went out. He's 5,200. It's 16 targets. Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce, but I think it's Hollywood Brown. Yeah, you can play Kelce. I don't love the running back situation. Patty Mahomes is really cheap. This is a game I feel like Patty Mahomes gets up there and plays well, but if Xavier Worthy ends up sitting, I feel like he's very questionable. I want to play Hollywood Brown. He's just so cheap that it's hard not to like him. I know Juju had 5 catches for 5 for 5 for 55. But I think it's Hollywood Brown if Worthy doesn't play in this game. All right. Through it. Man, this is a fun slate. Like I said, I love week 2. I always feel like it's overreaction week 2 every single year. Let's play the morning grind game, and then I'm gonna get out of here. Quarterback for 300 plus passing yards this week. Let's go. I think we have a few good options. I don't want to take one of the high-end guys. You know what? Give me Drake May to throw for 300 plus against the Dolphins. Low on running back for a touchdown. Let me pull up some projected ownership here. I try to find somebody under 10% for a touchdown. Let's go. Oh, I'm going to throw like a huge curveball here. Let's go Dylan Sampson for Cleveland. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be a rushing touchdown. Quarterback, wide receiver, stack for a touchdown. Let's go Trevor Lawrence to Brian Thomas. Because I think that's who I said last week and they failed. So we're going back. Wide receiver for 8 plus targets. Give me Zay Flowers. I think that this guy is going to be a consistent staple in the target department this year. Tight end for a touchdown. Let's go Warren. Back to that game we just talked about. Defense for 10 plus points. Let's see if we got cheap defense I like. I will say cheap defense that I'll probably take some shots on. I like Seattle, but give me Dallas to score 10 plus this week. There are some cheap defenses worth taking some shots on this week. This would definitely be one of those weeks where I play some cheaper defenses. I like the Titans price. Colts are cheap. Yeah, some cheap defenses. Chicago. All right, let's get into the betting portion of the game. Against the spread or money line bet. Didn't I do like a 2-pick parlay chat? Did I do a 2-pick parlay on this one last week? I think I did. I'm pretty sure I did. So since I did that last week, let's do it again. All right, I'm going to go Bills money line, Cowboys money line, 2-pick parlay here, minus 120. Not great odds, but that is my 2-pick parlay for this week. Over under bet. There was one that I really liked. I'm going to go over 46 points in the Bills Jets game. I meant to bet that when I was doing the show. And then my player prop pick, like I said earlier, James Conner over 63.5 rushing yards at minus 115. That's going to wrap it up here for week 2. Back tomorrow talking baseball. Hope everyone has an awesome week 2, and I will see you all Friday for a little bit of MLB.